The first thing my mother-in-law said wasn't hello. She stood in my kitchen like she owned the place, rain dripping from her coat, courthouse badge still clipped to the inside of her beige blazer. Ellen Caldwell had spent over 30 years as a criminal defense attorney. She had defended murderers, fraudsters, men who smiled while lying under oath. I had seen her calm down screaming clients with nothing but a raised eyebrow. But I had never seen her look at me like this. "You need to leave your husband today." For a second, I thought I'd misheard her. I actually laughed. A short, awkward sound that echoed too loudly in the quiet kitchen. My right hand was wrapped around a ceramic mug Mark had bought me on our honeymoon. Coffee steam rose between us like a barrier. "Excuse me?" I said. Ellen didn't blink. "You need to pack your things. Only essentials. And you need to come with me. Now." I glanced at the clock above the stove. 7:42 a.m. Mark had left for work at 7 sharp, like always. He'd kissed my cheek. Told me he loved me. Asked what I wanted for dinner. "Is this about Mark?" I asked. "Did something happen?" "Yes," she said. "But not the kind of thing you're thinking." My stomach tightened. "Then explain it." She shook her head once. Firm. Final. "I can't explain here." "That's not fair," I snapped. "You can't just walk into my house and say something like that." Her eyes flicked to the window. Then to the hallway. Then back to me. "This house isn't safe for you anymore." The mug slipped from my fingers and shattered against the tile. I stared at the broken pieces like they might rearrange themselves into sense. "Ellen," I whispered, "you're scaring me." "Good," she said quietly. "That means you'll listen." She opened her leather briefcase and pulled out a thick manila folder. The weight of it bent her wrist. She placed it on the counter between us, like a weapon laid down carefully. What I saw next changed everything. 3 hours earlier, I had believed my life was boring in the best possible way. I was 34 years old. A senior project manager at an architecture firm downtown. I spent my days coordinating budgets, arguing over window placements, and making sure other people's dreams didn't collapse under bad planning. Mark and I had been married for 6 years. Together for 9. No cheating scandals. No explosive fights. No police calls. We owned a 2-story house in Beaverton, drove paid-off cars, and hosted dinner parties where people complimented our teamwork. "You two are solid," my friends always said. I believed them. We talked about kids in vague, careful sentences. Next year. After the next promotion. Once things calmed down. Mark was thoughtful. Predictable. Safe. Or so I thought. Because evil doesn't always arrive screaming. Sometimes it wears your husband's face and pours you coffee every morning. The first crack had appeared months earlier, and I dismissed it without hesitation. Mark suggested we review our insurance policies. "Just being responsible," he said one evening, scrolling on his tablet. "Rates have changed. We can get better coverage." I rolled my eyes. "You're becoming your mother." He smiled, but it didn't reach his eyes. "Someone has to think long-term." He volunteered to handle the paperwork. I was buried under deadlines and grateful not to deal with it. That was my first mistake. Then came the comments. Not accusations. Concerns. "You've been really tired lately. You already told me that story. Maybe you should slow down." At first, I laughed them off. I was tired. Work was stressful. Life happens. But the comments kept coming. Always gentle. Always framed as care. When I finally snapped and asked why he kept questioning my memory, he sighed dramatically and said, "I'm just worried about you." Gaslighting doesn't feel like an attack. It feels like doubt planted in your own head. 2 weeks before Ellen showed up, I noticed something strange. A charge on our joint checking account. $4,800. Description: consultation fee. I stared at it for a long time before bringing it up. "What's this?" I asked casually over dinner. Mark didn't look up from his phone. "Work-related." "What kind of work charges almost $5,000 up front?" He shrugged. "Specialists." That word lingered in the air. "What specialists?" He finally looked at me, irritation flashing across his face before smoothing out. "You wouldn't understand the details." I felt embarrassed for asking. Ashamed, even. Later that night, I couldn't sleep. My chest felt tight. My thoughts looped in circles. I told myself I was being paranoid. That was my second mistake. Back in the kitchen, Ellen opened the manila folder. Inside were documents layered with ruthless precision. Court forms. Medical requests. Emails printed and highlighted. Photographs stapled neatly at the corners. "This is only a fraction," she said. "But it's enough." "Enough for what?" She slid the first document toward me. A psychiatric evaluation request. My name typed cleanly at the top. Requested by Mark Caldwell. Reason for evaluation: erratic behavior, memory lapses, emotional instability. I laughed. A sharp, hysterical sound tore out of my chest. "This is fake," I said. "This has to be fake." "It's not," Ellen replied. "It was filed last Thursday." She slid another document forward. A draft petition for conservatorship. Mark as petitioner. Me as respondent. Reason: inability to manage personal and financial affairs. My hands began to shake. "He can't do this without telling me," I said weakly. "He didn't have to," Ellen said. "Not yet." Another page. A life insurance beneficiary change confirmation. Coverage amount: $1,200,000. Primary beneficiary: Mark Caldwell. Effective immediately. The room spun. I grabbed the edge of the counter to stay upright. "He said it was for better rates," I whispered. "He lied," she said flatly. I felt something inside my chest crack open. "But why?" I asked. "Why would he?" Ellen leaned closer, her voice dropping. "Because it's easier to control the narrative if you're unstable first." She flipped to another section. Printed emails between Mark and a private investigator. Subject lines circled in red ink. Background verification. Witness statements. Medical corroboration. "He told your doctor you've been having blackouts," Ellen continued. "He told a coworker you've been emotionally volatile. He told the investigator you might be a danger to yourself." I felt sick. "Your husband has been building a case against you for over a year." The words landed like a death sentence. I stared at the pages until the letters blurred. "This can't be real," I said. "I would have noticed." "That's the point," she replied. "He made sure you didn't." Silence swallowed the room. I could hear my own heartbeat. Slow. Heavy. Terrified. "That's when I knew," Ellen said softly, "that this wasn't concern. It was preparation." I pressed my palms against my eyes. My husband. The man I trusted with my life. My body. My future. Planning something behind my back. Something big. Something final. "If this already makes you feel like you're falling," Ellen said, closing the folder, "you're not ready for what comes next." She reached for my hand. "Pack a bag," she said. "We're leaving." And as I stood there, surrounded by the ruins of the life I thought I knew, something inside me shifted. Fear was still there. But beneath it, something colder began to form. Something alert. Something dangerous. Because somewhere between the broken mug on the floor and my name typed on legal documents meant to erase me, I stopped being just a wife. And started becoming a problem for the man who underestimated me. That I packed my bag in 15 minutes. Not because I was efficient. Because Ellen stood in the doorway and watched the hallway like someone expecting an intruder. "Don't take anything he's touched," she said. That sentence didn't make sense yet. But it scared me enough to obey. Passport. Birth certificate. Laptop. Phone charger. One change of clothes. The gold necklace my grandmother gave me, hidden under socks. I left my wedding ring on the dresser. It felt radioactive. As we walked out, I looked back at the house. The porch Mark had built himself. The hydrangeas we planted together. The front door he locked every night. I didn't know then that I'd never sleep there again. Ellen didn't take me to her house. She drove past it. We crossed the river and pulled into the underground garage of a private medical building downtown. No sign. No logo. Just a keypad and a security camera that followed us. "Why are we here?" I asked. "Because this building has 3 things," she said, killing the engine. "Doctors who don't take bribes, attorneys who don't gossip, and security who don't ask questions." That should have reassured me. It didn't. Inside, we rode the elevator in silence. My reflection looked wrong. Pale. Smaller. Like I'd already started disappearing. The office belonged to Dr. Samuel Rice. Neurologist. Court-certified expert witness. Ellen had put away a man for insurance fraud using his testimony 10 years earlier. He didn't smile when he saw me. "That bad?" he asked Ellen. She nodded. "Worse." They sat me down in a windowless room and asked me questions. Simple ones at first. Name. Date. Address. Then harder. What did I eat yesterday? Who was the last person I spoke to on the phone? What medications was I taking? When I answered, Dr. Rice wrote everything down. Finally, he leaned back. Has your husband ever suggested you might be mentally unwell? Yes, I said. My voice cracked. Recently. Ellen slid a USB drive across the table. Mark submitted video evidence, she said. I want you to see it. My stomach dropped. Dr. Rice plugged it in. The screen lit up. It was me. Or, it looked like me. I was sitting on our couch, wearing my gray sweater. My eyes looked unfocused. My speech was slurred. I don't remember things, the woman on the screen said. Sometimes I feel like I'm not myself. My blood ran cold. That's not, I started. Ellen held up her hand. Watch. The clip cut. Another video. Me again. Standing in the kitchen. Hands shaking. I get angry, the woman said. I don't know why. The angle was wrong. Too high. Too distant. Hidden camera. How did he get this? I whispered. He staged it, Ellen said. And edited the rest. Dr. Rice paused the video and zoomed in frame by frame. Lighting inconsistencies, he said calmly. Audio splicing. These clips are composites. I exhaled for the first time in minutes. But to a judge? I asked. Would they notice? No, Ellen said. Not without reason to look. That's when it hit me. This wasn't sloppy. It was professional. Ellen opened her notebook. Mark didn't do this alone, she said. He hired people. She listed them one by one. A private investigator named Louis Kramer. Paid $18,000 over 9 months. A nurse practitioner who falsified notes after phone consultations. $6,500 in consulting fees. A financial advisor who quietly moved assets. $42,000. And a contingency attorney, she finished. Who would have taken over once you were declared incompetent? I stared at the numbers. He spent more planning this than our wedding, I said. That's because this would have paid out better, Ellen replied. I wanted to scream. Instead, I asked the question that had been clawing at my throat. What was the endgame? Ellen didn't answer immediately. Dr. Rice stood and closed the door. Finally, she spoke. Involuntary commitment, she said. Short term. Just long enough. For what? For an accident. The word landed heavy. Medication error, she continued. Fall down the stairs. Self-harm. Something tragic but explainable. My hands went numb. And then, Ellen said, he collects. I shook my head. He wouldn't kill me. Ellen looked at me like a lawyer looks at a jury. He already erased you on paper, she said. The rest is logistics. That night, I slept in a secure apartment owned by one of Ellen's colleagues. Steel door. No windows. White noise machine humming constantly. I barely slept. At 2:17 a.m., my phone buzzed. Mark. Hey. You didn't answer earlier. Everything okay? I stared at the screen. Another message. Your mother-in-law called me. Said she hadn't seen you. Weird. My chest tightened. Are you with her? Then. You're worrying me. I handed the phone to Ellen. She read silently. He's escalating, she said. Good. Good. I asked. Yes, she said. It means he doesn't know where you are. I swallowed. What do we do? She finally smiled. Not warmly. Strategically. We let him think his plan is still working, she said. And we document everything. That's when I stopped being afraid. Not because the danger was gone. But because I understood it. And once you understand the monster, you can build the trap. If this story is making your heart race, don't look away. The next part is where everything goes public. The next morning, I went back to my life. At least, that's what Mark believed. I answered his texts 3 hours late. Apologized. Said I'd had a migraine and stayed overnight at a friend's place. Used words he'd trained me to use. Overwhelmed. Emotional. Sorry. He responded exactly as Ellen predicted. I'm just worried about you. We should talk. I'd been thinking maybe we need professional help. Every message was another brick in the cage he was building. And every message was logged, time-stamped, and forwarded to 3 separate secure servers. I moved into a temporary apartment under a different name. Cash only. No forwarding address. Ellen made sure my car stayed parked in front of our house so the neighbors wouldn't talk. Visibility matters, she said. Silence is suspicious. So I became visible. I went to work. I smiled. I answered emails. I even joked in meetings. Inside, I was shaking apart. 3 days later, Mark suggested couples counseling. I found someone really good, he said over the phone. His voice was soft. Caring. Familiar. She specializes in stress-related issues. What's her name? I asked. Dr. Hannah Lowe. Ellen didn't even need to look her up. She's not licensed in this state, she said. But she testifies well. We agreed to the session. Public place. Glass walls. Cameras. Mark looked relieved when he saw me. You scared me, he said, pulling me into a hug that lasted a second too long. His hand pressed firmly between my shoulder blades, like he was checking something underneath my skin. I didn't hug him back. Dr. Lowe smiled too much. She asked leading questions. Do you ever feel detached from reality? Do you feel anger toward your husband? Do you have thoughts of hurting yourself? Mark watched me closely. Every pause. Every breath. I answered calmly. Clearly. Precisely. Afterward, in the parking lot, he looked disappointed. You seemed better, he said. I shrugged. Maybe I am. That night, Ellen got a call. Mark had requested an emergency evaluation. He was rushing the timeline. That means he's losing control, Ellen said. Which makes him dangerous. She laid everything out on the table. We needed proof. Not suspicion. Not patterns. Confessions. People like Mark only feel safe when they're explaining, she said. So we give him an audience. The bait was simple. I would agree to a private meeting. No lawyers. No doctors. Just us. I texted him. I'm scared. I don't know what's happening to me. I think you're right. Can we talk? Just us? He replied in under a minute. Of course. I've been waiting for you to trust me again. We chose the place. Our old cabin. The one in Mount Hood we used to escape to. No cell service. No neighbors. Just trees and quiet. Mark suggested it. Ellen smiled when she heard. Of course he did. We prepared for 48 hours. Hidden microphones sewn into my jacket lining. A backup recorder in my bag. GPS tracker under my shoe. State troopers on standby, parked 2 miles away. If he suspects anything, Ellen said, he'll shut down. What if he doesn't? I asked. Then he'll tell you everything, she replied. Because he'll think he's won. The drive up the mountain felt endless. Mark hummed along to the radio like we were on vacation. You always loved this place, he said. I watched his hands on the steering wheel. Steady. Confident. A man who believed he was untouchable. The cabin smelled like pine and dust. He poured me a glass of wine. I didn't drink it. You don't trust me anymore, he said softly. I want to, I replied. He sat across from me, knees forward, posture open. Therapist posture. I've been so scared, he said. Watching you slip away. Slip how? I asked. He hesitated. Then leaned in. You forget things, he said. You get emotional. You don't see it, but others do. Others? I echoed. He nodded. Doctors. Friends. Even your boss has noticed. That was a lie. But he needed me to believe it. What happens to me? I asked. My voice barely held. If you don't get help? He sighed. You could hurt yourself. Or someone else. Silence stretched. Then he said it. I've protected you so much already. I looked at him. How? He smiled. And began to explain. He told me about the investigator. About the nurse. About how easy it was to guide conversations. He told me judges prefer simple stories. He told me the system wants to believe husbands. I never wanted it to go this far, he said. But once you start, you can't stop. Start what? I whispered. Planning, he replied. How long? I asked. He looked away. A year, he said. Then corrected himself. More like 18 months. My throat burned. And after? I asked. He swirled his wine. After, I make sure you're safe. Safe where? In a place that can help you, he said. Short term. And if I don't get better? I asked. He met my eyes. Then at least you won't suffer. The words were calm. Practiced. Final. That was the moment. The moment my love for him died completely. I stood up. I need air, I said. He nodded. Don't wander. I stepped onto the porch. My hands were shaking so badly I thought the recorder would fall out. Inside, Mark followed me. You know, he said gently, none of this had to be hard. I turned to face him. Then why did you make it so cruel? I asked. For the first time, his mask slipped. Because you trusted me, he said. And trust is useful. That sentence was everything we needed. Behind the trees, a light flickered. Once. Twice. Signal received. If this revelation made your stomach drop, don't blink. The next part is where the trap closes, and everyone is watching that I didn't react when the lights flickered. I couldn't. My face had gone numb, like my body knew something my mind was still catching up to. Mark was standing 3 feet away from me on the cabin porch, the man I had slept next to for years, the man who had memorized my coffee order and my cycle and my fears. And he had just admitted, calmly, almost proudly, that my trust was a tool. Inside the trees, the signal light blinked again. Mark noticed it this time. What was that? He asked. Probably a hiker, I said quickly. Or a drone. People film out here all the time. He studied my face. His eyes narrowed, just slightly. For a terrifying second, I thought I'd miscalculated. That he'd sensed the trap. That everything Ellen had built would collapse because of one flicker of light. Then he smiled. See, he said gently. You jumped to conclusions. I forced myself to smile back. That night, I slept on the couch. Or pretended to. I listened to Mark move around the cabin. Open drawers. Close them. Walk to the porch and back. At 2:04 a.m., he stood over me. I felt the shadow of his body before I heard his breath. You okay? He whispered. Yes, I lied. He watched me for a full 10 seconds before walking away. I didn't sleep again. At 6:30 a.m., he suggested a hike. Fresh air will do you good, he said. Clear your head. My heart slammed against my ribs. The trail he chose wasn't random. It was narrow. Steep. A drop-off on one side that disappeared into fog. This one's always been your favorite, he said. I nodded, every muscle in my body screaming. We walked in silence for several minutes. Birds. Wind. Gravel underfoot. Then he stopped. Do you remember when we first came here? He asked. Yes, I said. He smiled. You were scared of the edge. I swallowed. I still am. That's okay, he replied. Fear keeps us from making mistakes. He stepped closer to me. Too close. My heel shifted on loose gravel. For one frozen second, I saw it. Not in my imagination. In his posture. In the way his hand hovered, not touching me, but ready. I understood then that the accident wasn't theoretical. It was rehearsed. I took a step back deliberately. I need to sit, I said. I'm dizzy. He frowned. Already? I told you, I whispered. I'm not well. That did it. Concern flickered across his face. Relief followed. He helped me down onto a rock, his hand firm on my shoulder. There you go, he said. See? I've got you. I nodded, staring at the ground. Behind us, a twig snapped. Mark straightened. Hello, he called. Nothing. Just forest. Too quiet. That's when his phone buzzed. He checked it. Color drained from his face. Back at the cabin, everything moved fast. Too fast. Mark started packing. Not carefully. Not thoughtfully. Shoving clothes into a duffel bag. We're leaving, he said. Now. Why? I asked. Change of plans. His phone buzzed again. And again. I caught a glimpse of the screen. Missed calls. Unknown numbers. Blocked ID. He turned away from me. I pulled out my phone. No signal. But one message came through. From Ellen. Stay calm. Do exactly what he says. You're safe. My knees almost buckled. Mark grabbed his keys. Get your shoes, he said sharply. Mark, I said softly. What's going on? He looked at me. Really looked. And for the first time, I saw fear in his eyes. They're twisting things, he said. People don't understand. Who? I asked. My mother, he snapped. She's always hated me. That was a lie. Ellen had protected him for decades. But he needed a villain. We're going somewhere safe, he continued. Where they can't interfere. The door opened before I could respond. Mark Caldwell, a voice said calmly, step away from your wife. State troopers filled the doorway. Weapons lowered, but ready. Mark froze. I'd never forget the look on his face. Not anger. Not shock. Betrayal. As if I had broken a promise. They separated us gently. I didn't resist. I couldn't stop shaking. Ellen entered last. She looked older somehow. Tired. Resolute. Mom, Mark said hoarsely. What did you do? She didn't answer him. She looked at me. You did exactly right, she said. Mark started talking. Fast. Loud. Defensive. She's sick, he insisted. You're all being manipulated. She doesn't know what she's saying. One of the troopers read him his rights. Another placed him in cuffs. That's when Mark lost control. He lunged toward me. You did this, he screamed. You ruined everything. They restrained him. As he was led away, he twisted his head to look at me one last time. You'll never prove it, he spat. No one will believe you. Ellen stepped between us. They already do, she said. The next weeks blurred together. Depositions. Statements. Evidence reviews. The recordings from the cabin. The financial trails. The falsified medical notes. The edited videos, now fully reconstructed. Mark's attorney tried to suppress the evidence. Failed. The nurse took a plea deal. The investigator testified. The financial advisor flipped to save himself. And Mark? Mark watched it all unravel in a courtroom packed with people who finally saw him clearly. I testified on a Tuesday. My voice didn't shake. When the prosecutor played the recording where Mark said, "Trust is useful," the room went silent. Mark didn't look at me. He stared at the table. The verdict came faster than anyone expected. Guilty. Multiple counts. Fraud. Conspiracy. Attempted unlawful restraint. The judge denied bail pending sentencing. Mark was led away in handcuffs. Again. This time, he didn't look back. If you're still here, don't look away now. The final part isn't about what he lost. It's about what I rebuilt. Sentencing day felt quieter than the trial. No cameras. No crowd spilling into the hallway. Just polished wood, muted voices, and the steady ticking of the clock above the judge's bench. I sat in the second row, hands folded in my lap, spine straight. Ellen sat beside me. She wore a dark gray suit and no jewelry. The version of her that went to war. Mark was brought in last. He looked smaller. Not thinner, smaller. As if the space around him had finally stopped bending to his will. He didn't look at me. He didn't look at his mother. He stared forward, jaw set, like he could still outlast reality if he refused to acknowledge it. The judge reviewed the charges. Again. Fraud. Conspiracy. Attempted unlawful restraint. Insurance manipulation. Evidence tampering. The words were clinical. Clean. They didn't carry the weight of nights I couldn't sleep or the echo of his voice saying, "Trust is useful." Then came victim impact statements. I stood. For a moment, the room blurred. I placed my hand on the podium and felt the cool edge ground me back into my body. I believed I was safe, I said. My voice was steady. It surprised me. Not because my life was perfect. But because the person I loved had built it with me. I paused. Looked at Mark. He didn't move. He didn't just plan to hurt me, I continued. He planned to erase me. On paper. In rooms I wasn't allowed into. In conversations I wasn't present for. He decided who I was without my consent. The judge nodded once. I'm not here because I broke, I said. I'm here because I survived long enough to be heard. When I sat down, Ellen squeezed my hand. Mark's attorney argued for leniency. Mental stress. Financial pressure. A misguided attempt to protect his wife. The judge didn't buy it. Mr. Caldwell, she said, looking directly at him, your actions required patience, coordination, and intent. This court does not confuse planning with care. She sentenced him to 12 years. No early release. No suspended time. When the gavel came down, something inside my chest loosened. Not joy. Not relief. Completion. I didn't see Mark again after that. I filed for divorce from a safe address. The house was sold. The accounts were split according to court order. The life insurance policy was voided. The conservatorship petition was sealed and flagged so it could never be reused against me or anyone else. I changed my last name back. The first night in my new apartment, I slept on the floor with a pillow and a blanket because the bed hadn't arrived yet. Rain tapped against the windows. The city hummed outside. I slept for 10 uninterrupted hours. When I woke up, I didn't feel watched. Recovery wasn't dramatic. It was quiet. Administrative. Sometimes boring. Therapy twice a week. Not because I was unstable, but because trauma leaves fingerprints. I learned how to recognize the difference between caution and fear. Between memory and manipulation. I went back to work on my own terms. My firm offered me a sabbatical. I took half of it. Traveled alone. Learned how my thoughts sounded without someone else editing them. I stopped apologizing for asking questions. I stopped shrinking when men spoke with confidence. I stopped assuming love meant safety. And I started building again. Not houses. Myself. Ellen and I talk every Sunday now. Sometimes about the case. Mostly about ordinary things. The neighbor's dog. A new recipe. A book she's reading and pretending not to like. One evening, months later, she said something that stayed with me. I didn't save you, she said. I just refused to help him bury you. She was right. I saved myself the moment I listened to that quiet alarm inside me, the one he tried so hard to silence. People ask me if I miss him. I miss the version of my life I thought was real. I don't miss the man who studied my trust like a resource. Justice didn't give me my past back. It gave me my future without his shadow in it. I wake up now without checking my phone first. I drink my coffee slowly. I notice my thoughts arriving and leaving like weather. I don't need permission to exist as I am. Family isn't blood. It's who chooses you without trying to own you. If this story shook you, if it made you rethink something you brushed off as nothing, don't ignore that feeling. And if you want to hear more true stories where the truth fights back, hit like and subscribe. Some endings are quiet. But they last.